As a continuation to the Budokai Tenkaichi series, Dragon Ball Sparking Zero comes out as the 4th title to the original Budokai Tenkaichi trilogy. Now originally this game was going to come out as Budokai Tenkaichi 4, but seeing as how Budokai Tenkaichi 4 is a popular mod in the gaming community, they gave Sparking Zero its own name to give it a new fresh state in the gaming market. Now since this game comes out as the 4th title, that means we're going to see a lot of similarities, but as well as differences to the original trilogy. And this game actually did take away a lot of the original Budokai Tenkaichi's experience. So in this video, I really just want to highlight what features did the player miss out on in Sparking Zero. What's good, YouTube? My name is Money Monsoon, and I do want to let you guys know I didn't grow up playing these games. I didn't grow up playing Ultimate Tenkaichi 1 or 2, but I did play Ultimate Tenkaichi 3 and had some experience with the modded 4. So I do know a lot about the original experience of this game, but my information is not going to be nearly as good as someone who's played the entire franchise through and through. But either way, in this video I do want to cover what features we could have had in Sparking Zero, and maybe the game changes, right? This game already promises a lot of new features that aren't even in the game yet. So really I just want to cover what they took away of the original Ultimate Tenkaichi experience. Starting off with the obvious, loading screens. In the Budokai Tenkaichi franchise, the old gen games weren't as quick to load into matches, to load into story mode, to load into anything. So of course there were loading screens. While most games did loading screens normally, Ultimate Tenkaichi did loading screens a little bit different. They gave the player loading screen mini games, which included the Gohan pulling swords from the ground, Vegeta push-ups, and Goku eating bowls of food. I don't think anyone disliked this feature. This feature was just fun for the player as they loaded into games and whatnot. And we're seeing now, with the introduction of less loading times, faster console experiences, that loading screens have just been taken away. And this truly I don't see making a return. Even though in Sparking Zero, we still do load into games. There is a loading time, especially if the player that you're connecting to doesn't actually have good internet. So instead, we just are sitting stuck with the black screen, and there still technically are loading screens, but now the screen's just black. This is a cool feature. I am really upset that we did miss out on that. So instead, I can only hope that the time it takes to load into games only gets faster, because as of right now, it still does take a tiny bit of time to load into games. Even story mode, it's not just like 100% quick snap of the fingers you're in the game. Like, there still is a tiny bit of loading time. So we'll see which direction Sparking Zero decides to go for that. The next feature I want to talk about is camera angles. On Sparking Zero, you could obviously see that the camera isn't directly on the player's back, and what I mean by that is it's not nearly as zoomed in. You get a wider perspective of everything in Sparking Zero. I actually think that making things further away disconnects the player more from their character. In the original Ultimate Tenkaichi trilogy, you really were playing like up close in front with your character's back towards the camera, and now with the distance away from the camera, it really reminds me more of Xenoverse, which just isn't up close and personal. I think that old feature really put you more into the perspective of the game, especially since this wasn't supposed to be a competitive game, and instead you're really just supposed to be immersed as the Z fighter that you're playing. Now, while I don't think that this feature is too big to talk about, it is pretty notable and shouldn't be missed if we want Sparking Zero to be more like the original Ultimate Tenkaichi. The next feature I'm going to talk about is the opponent lock-on system. In the original Ultimate Tenkaichi, there was a bigger focus on the game being open world. There's a lot more map to play with, and so with that same idea, you didn't exactly have to be locked on to your opponent. And in this game, the only time that you're not locked on to your opponent is when you get hit with a Sparking Zero Ultimate, or get hit with an instant transmission, teleport behind the back. Only then will you lose your opponent and be able to move your camera a little bit more freely. Now, I actually think that this feature is huge. Having a camera lock on and lock off system allowed the player to really just move where they wanted to move when they wanted to move there. I remember with my experience playing Ultimate Tenkaichi 3, what me and my friends did was we actually played hide and seek within the match because we weren't forced to be locked on. So therefore, we could just run away and hide, and you'd have to go out of your way to search for the player. Versus now, there's more of an auto lock-on system, and you're just not able to have that free roam, explore the map as you would in the original titles. Now, this feature, I actually think that this is more important because now there's a bigger focus on fighting your opponent, which before, yeah, sure, it's a Dragon Ball game, that's what the focus was about. You weren't actually forced into only having to fight your opponent. And especially with like the different camera angles, a viewer in one of my older Sparking Zero videos commented on like pretty much how before he was able to do more role playing in the game he had a lot more fun just sitting around role playing with the characters. And he said Sparking Zero was the game that he could have dreamed of for years, but now that it's here, he can't even really get into that whole role playing experience. And I think that has a lot to do with the whole lock on opponent system and the camera angles. Maybe a combination of those two just takes out the whole I'm playing as this character experience versus I'm just put here to fight. Now, another feature I want to talk about is transformations. Transformations are a little bit different in this game. A lot of characters do have transformations, but the transformations that they clearly took out were a lot of the Great Ape transformations. In the old titles, every original Saiyan had a Great Ape transformation. Nappa had a transformation. Raditz had a transformation. But the difference with them was they could only transform at night or when the moon was out. Someone like Vegeta, of course, he wouldn't have to rely on the setting of the map, whether it's night or not. But other characters like Raditz or Nappa, they would have to rely on if the moon is out or not if they want to go Great Ape, because that was more lore accurate. I think that's a cool little feature that we missed out on in Sparking Zero, because it puts us more into the Dragon Ball world. You have to worry about more of the setting and whether it's night or day, versus now, like, we don't even have nearly as many Great Apes in the game, which I'm not sure how to feel about that. That feature is like, oh, I guess we missed out on that one. Another big feature that we missed out on is the story mode adventure. In the older games, you were able to fly around this huge map of the world. Goku would be flying around Namek, going to different parts to start the mission. I believe that was mostly a feature in Ultimate Tenkaichi 1 and 2. I'm not actually sure if that was in Tenkaichi 3, but instead we now switched to the more map layout where we just have a map, click on the level, we play the level, versus actually having to like explore, find cool things, and even pick up Dragon Balls. So there was a lot less of an interactive story mode, which kind of sucks because I know a lot of people say they only really play the Sparking Zero offline and story mode. So in that aspect, there's not even really much there for them. Now, especially since we talked about all the features that we missed out on, we should talk about what we did gain with the new title of Sparking Zero. And the first thing that comes to mind is the level creation. We could create our own levels with a lot of different dialogue options, and that is pretty cool. There's infinite creativity in this custom world building. Now, do I personally think it could be better? Yeah, sure, but it is a new feature and it is pretty cool. Although this is actually the only real main new feature that I could think of. There are some similarities between Budokai Tenkaichi 3 and Sparking Zero. First thing that comes to mind is the encyclopedia, where you can learn about every character through girl talk. Before, it was just Chi-Chi. Chi-Chi was describing every character, but now it is Videl, Bulma, and Chi-Chi. You get to hear all of them talk about it. Another similarity is secret battles or secret paths. In the story mode, Sparking Zero, you could beat the level in different ways to unlock different paths, or rather like to unlock hidden paths and hidden storylines. And that feature is not new. There was something like that in Dragon Ball Tenkaichi 3, but I don't believe it was nearly to the extent of Sparking Zero. And those are the main features that we really missed out on in Sparking Zero. This game is new, and I don't see them giving up on this game anytime soon. We are only going to get more features with Sparking Zero, like the new 2v2 mode, and hopefully they add more than just 2v2, but 2v2 would be crazy just as it is. Having 4 people in a match duke it out, I'm already excited for it. But we did miss out on a lot of the things that made the Ultimate Tenkaichi franchise more unique and let the player dive more into the game, be more immersed. And so right now I feel like the main problem with Sparking Zero may just be it's hard for the players to get nearly as immersed as they were in the Ultimate Tenkaichi days. So we might see some changes to focus on immersion, or they might go a different route. But personally, the one feature I do want to see them add or make a return is the opponent lock-on, lock-off system. If that makes a return, I think this game will just be like absolutely magnificent. Like, you're just going to be able to move around and do what you want, and by that I just mean camera angle wise. But until we see some changes, a lot of new players will just miss out on the original experience. With that being said, that's all the features that I could really think of. Let me know if there's any other features that I missed in this video, or if there's some features that you want to see return in Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. With that, I'll catch you guys in the next one.